Okay, let's get started with seeding. But before we get started, we want to talk a little bit about the materials and equipment and inputs that you used in starting seeds. So the very first thing we'll talk about is the type of soil that you use. In greenhouses and in potted plant production, there are two main general types of soil mixes that you use. Of course, there's hundreds of different types of products that are available, and it can get a little bit confusing. But the main things you want to know are about the two types, and one is called starting or propagation mix, like that we have here, and then there's pro mix or potting mix, which is different. So this is your standard propagation mix. It is a finely ground perlite and peat moss mixture, and it's good for starting seeds and even for doing cuttings if you're rooting them into soil, because the particles are very fine, and it's easy for little seeds to push through that through the potting media when they're sprouting. This is a pro mix. It's a general mix. It's basically the same as what's inside the propagation mix, but the particles are a lot bigger and coarser, and you could see a little seed would have a harder time pushing its way up through this material. So that's why we don't usually use this for starting seedlings, although you can, as long as you mix it well enough and you don't seed too deep. But this is usually better for larger plants or larger seeded plants. So that's the main difference between these two. So if you're going to be doing a lot of seeds, and especially small seeded plants, you want to get your hands on some propagation mix, although it can be done with this. And I'll even show you a way to do it cheaper, because you can actually use this as a base and then cover your seeds with the propagation mix. The propagation mix is a little more expensive, so that's why we do it that way. But the results end up pretty much the same. So let's talk about seeding trays. When you're growing vegetables, you generally want to use one of two major sizes of trays. There are many different sizes of seedling trays that are commercially available, but the main two that we want to use in vegetable starts is 50s and 72s. They describe the size of the trays as in terms of the count of numbers of cells that are in them, because the sizes are pretty much exactly the same. So a 50 is good for a bigger seeded plant, like cucumbers and squash in particular do really well in 50s. I would not recommend doing them in any cell that's smaller than that. And 72s are good for most plants. Actually can be raised in 72s that have small seeds. So kale, lettuce, tomatoes, peppers, can be grown in 72s. So the larger the number, the smaller the cell as it goes, because these are the same size. So today what we're going to be growing is some pak choy, and we're going to grow that in a 72. I'm not going to be planting any squash today or cucumbers, because it's currently November, and squash are a warm season crop, so we're not going to want to grow that because they're going to die. We will grow and hopefully eat these pak choy. So what I'll show you is next how to mix the soil and prepare it for planting.